Are you wondering what information your AV audiovisual provider needs from you as the event organizer or the event planner? Well, this is a question that I got from one of my friends in the industry who just has found audiovisual AV production, that part of your event budget, to be so frustrating. And so they asked me, come on, Logan, what are the basics that your AV company needs to know? I've also worked with a number of technical directors as a freelance event producer, so I also have heard the question of why don't the event organizers understand I needed to know this information before we were here and setting up on site? So that question, while simple, I feel like is a very complex answer. And by complex, I just mean long. And I know here on YouTube, you guys like those bite-sized kind of videos that I do. And so what I'm doing is I'm breaking this down into a 5-part series. This one is going to be part 1, and I'm going to talk through all of the different pieces of what your AV company will know. I promise you, if you watch all of these, you'll have a very comprehensive idea of exactly what your AV provider needs. Before we jump into it, I'm Logan Clements. I'm a freelance event producer based in Seattle, Washington, but I execute events here and all over the world. I do want to remind you to subscribe, turn on that little notification bell so you get notified every single Monday when I drop new videos. I'm also the co-host of the Better Events podcast with fellow event pro Mary Davidson. We dive even more in depth into some of these topics that I cover here on YouTube. Everything from how to be a stage manager, how to have a good post-event process, what does relationship management look like for event pros? You name it, we have an episode on it. So listen wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, so what information does your AV provider need? Essentially, they're looking for what is captured in traditionally an RFP, a request for proposal. Now, I'm hesitant to say that off the top because I do think there's a lot of people who have RFPs they've used for their events over the years. They might not be that accurate. They're not really updated. There's a lot of hidden language that they don't actually, lay out there. So don't use an RFP if it is old, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 different areas that I think you need to make sure to lay that information out to your AV provider, and that will help them give you the most accurate quote of exactly what you need. It also will give you some scenarios. One of the favorite things I love to do as a producer, scenarios that you can ask your AV provider to utilize their expertise. Maybe you say, we have a little more budget, what are some options for how we can best utilize it? And instead of just saying it broad like that, you can actually have it in these specific areas. So no matter if you already have an RFP or you're working through one right now, or you're going to make one as you watch these 5-part videos, these are the 5 pieces of information that I think are the most crucial to give your AV provider to get an accurate quote and not have any hidden surprises along the way. In this video, I'm going to talk about part 1, which is going to be talking about how the attendees see and hear your content. In video 2, I'm going to talk all about scenic. Video 3, we're going to dive into speaker tools. Video 4, we're going to talk about live streaming and recording, and part 5 is schedule. This is a question that you need to ask yourself as the event organizer or the event planner, and what 2 parts of this, it means the screens, the visuals, what are they going to see, where are they seeing those screens, how many of them, and how are they going to hear your content, the sound system. So with screens, it can be as simple as a single projector or even a single monitor, or it can be as robust as I've had 40-foot by 20-foot LED boards. An LED is a great solution. If you have a bigger budget, you're going to have those beautiful pops of color. You're not going to have any of that kind of washout that happens when you use a projection screen, especially if your venue has nice big windows. Windows and sun make your projector really, really faint and people can't see it. I also think in a very, very small room, a monitor is great because it's kind of a 2-for-1. Smaller rooms love using these because it has a sound system built into the monitor and it's got your visuals. And it's incredibly speaker friendly using a monitor versus using a projector versus going really big and going with LEDs. So knowing kind of what quality you're looking for, as well as how many that you're looking for. Again, the size of your room, the type of event, that's going to determine. Like a big ballroom that's going to seat 800 for a fundraising luncheon, you might need 2 screens in the front of the room and 2 screens in the back of the room because you want to seat people in rounds and you want to make sure everybody can see everything they need to see. Maybe you're going to do, I had one event, we did a huge 4x1 LED screen, and that screen was big enough that we were able to duplicate content on the left and right of that single screen to kind of serve that same purpose. I've also had some people use rigging and they fly screens from the back of the room so that even farther back can even see what's going on. Think of it like a stadium. I love sports. So where are all of your screens to make sure everyone in your room is able to see your content? All of that information really impacts your AV provider, and a projector can range, from $1,500 to $10,000. So knowing exactly what you're looking for, if not the exact model, but just yes to projection, no to LED, or maybe you're open to both, and or the quantity, 3 of these, 1 of these, none of these, that'll help your AV provider get you a better quote. And how you hear the content, your sound system. So this is something that's really important. You're going to see rigging as a really big cost on any of your AV budgets. Rigging is anything that's getting hung from the ceiling. So the rigging that's involved. And a lot of times, if it's a hotel or a venue, they make you use their people for rigging, which we can gripe about it. It's annoying, it's expensive, but they're going to know the best ways to hang things. They know the venue. And also, I'm just a very risk-averse person. So when you're sitting there at the end of the day, you don't want to be worrying about a speaker falling on someone or something from the ceiling falling on an attendee. That is like every event organizer's nightmare. So I would rather say, don't, be pushing back on some of these things. The rigging just costs what it does. But depending on the size of the room and the budget, you might not be able to afford rigging. So your option then is going to have a floor-supported sound system. So that is a speaker on a stand. That is a stack of speakers. There are a couple options. Again, this is where you can maybe say your preference to your AV provider or let them know, I'm going to need the room to be filled for 600 people. I want the audio to sound great from the front and the back. What is your suggestion? It's also important in this process to be talking about maybe how many speakers you have, speakers on stage speakers, because you also need to know how many microphones. A lot of times they are sold in packs of 4, so needing 4 microphones, 8, 12, even if you only needed 9, they're probably going to have you rent 12. This is just really helpful to know. Also knowing the maximum number of people who are going to be on stage together. Because if 6 microphones are in play at your panel, that's going to be a lot more complicated than 1 mic on a podium that people are just kind of stepping up to. And so that's a different mixer, the equipment they use to mix all of your microphone feeds to make sure everyone sounds good. You're not getting that awful pinging feedback sound, all of that. And all of that information is really important for your AV provider to get you the best quote possible. This is a place in particular that I have seen budgets kind of get a little out of control with last minute ads because they didn't really think through their programming and they didn't understand how many mics they needed. And so that ended up last minute, we needed to bring extra mics, which then meant we were doing a lot with the smaller mixer, so there was feedback, and it just can really impact your event experience. So just making sure you're thinking about your screens, your sound system, and with that, you need to know your number of attendees, the size of the room roughly, and roughly how many speakers are going to be speaking in your program, and the max number at one time. All right, that is part 1 of what your information your AV provider needs for your event. I will also put my pro tip in here is whether you call it an RFP or not, I have certain events I do annually, and I will say, quote, an RFP, but it's really a document with just a bunch of bullets of the equipment that I've used from the year prior. I also will include notes of anything that got added on site. So that is a living idea of what I'm looking for when I reach out to my new AV provider. Here is something that I can say, okay, this is what we did last year, plus we want to add these 3 things. Let me know. Hopefully you learned something here about what AV provider needs as an event organizer or planner. I'm Logan Clements. I'm a freelance event producer based in Seattle, Washington, but I execute events here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in part 2. Bye.